Hey, it's Alex. I watched a video here not too long ago that was really, really out of this world. I'm actually going to go and look it up right now just to get the name of it so I can say it on here. It was, I watched it between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. pertaining to November 21st, 2019. And it was very impactful. I could feel the energies heighten. I could feel myself be encapsulating more dimensional behind the scenes, almost like I was getting picked up spiritually. Um, and the kind of energies and the subject matter was really inspirational and left me speechless for some of it. Yeah, it was called Time Lapse of the Future, A Journey to the End of Time, 4K. It just really, 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 really amazing filmmaking. That is, yes, that is, but also it's like spiritual behind the scenes as well too. It's just really, really cool. I know there's moments where guides are advocating for moments where guides chose for us to advocate in regards to market phishing, etc. Moments where guides pertaining to protocol labs, the way Mainspur guides indicated. And I know there's moments where guides are advocating for moments where guides chose for us to advocate in regards to market phishing, etc. Moments where guides pertaining to melody sheep, the way Mainspur guides indicated. Really, like it showed a time lapse of what the future, might hold in regards to not only Earth, but they sort of expanded away from that and started moving towards stars and then black holes, and what would happen in regards to this physical universe as we currently think might happen. What science is pointing towards to a certain degree. And, one of the things that I sort of noticed was, different kinds of versions out there that potentially exist, some of which might be, well, so much might be physical. In the spiritual, there are some in the spiritual that are able to traverse to planets near instantaneously, and have a collection of like maybe what certain kind of physical science is pointing towards from different cultures. So they have different kinds of probably versions of different kinds of different sciences and what it's pointing towards. Some of the stuff that we might not be aware of, for example, like what if there is technology out there that can create stars? And maybe it's outside the observable universe to us in a certain manner, but that might be one of those things. Because it was one of the things talked about, but it was really, 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 really good. And I and others, Devon Marine Spirit Guides, are advocating for what Marine Spirit Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart education, etc. Devon Marine Spirit Guides pertaining to what Marine Spirit Guides indicated, the way Marine Spirit Guides indicated. All right, fine. During these heightened moments, there is a certain spirit that's like, you have such a chance, to a certain degree, but it was almost like it was even beyond that. It was almost like a natural, like, you have a chance, but almost like it wasn't even said, it was just there, it was being, to a certain degree, almost like a response in regards to the art itself that lent towards the art itself. So I don't know how to explain that one. It's like, it's surreal. The kind of energies and thinking about the spiritual in regards to some of the stuff happening. But again, there was a couple, two, three themes that I felt were really, really important. One of which happened to do with the amount of time passing in regards to that this physical universe would still be in existence was astronomical. It was way more than I had originally thought to be. In a couple different manners to be true. And it kind of sort of brought on that sort of thing again, that sort of, we have this outlook and this mentality and mindset that there are those in the original light that are experiencing a large amount of time frames pertaining to small amount of time, seemingly in what we're experiencing, 1 second physical earth-based time, trillions of years in the original light pertaining to certain existences. So in that context, how much time is being experienced? And something was brought up where it's like, well, there is that sort of thing that says non-time, where they're looking at like time, like they're looking at like, but there's still some are saying, hey, but they're still experiencing time, are they not? To a certain degree, isn't there still moments passing? All right, fine. Even the observation of that sort of thing, time itself, moments passing. How are you able to observe something without a moment passing? Even within the moment, even within certain kinds of moment measurements, there's still moments happening. All right, you can't. I think that that's one of those laws. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I mean, you could slow it down. You could probably modify and impact it, but moments passing, it feels like something that just exists. That you know, that it is. It is. And another thing I sort of saw is I sort of said, what are they experiencing? If there is life within stars, and I feel that there is there, if there is if there is life within planets, and I think there is, what are they experiencing? What is their quality of life? And one of the things that I noted when I step on Earth, I feel energy exchanges. I've felt communication with Earth in multiple kinds of ways. That sort of stuff that says an entity walking towards me, a vision, where I speak to Earth and he takes the form of a man or a female or a woman, a man or a woman. It takes the form of a male. Anyway, there's different female, male, woman, man. All right, correct. Anyway, but there's also ones where I feel like the planet itself. I can feel energies from the planet itself, communication from certain overlaps in regards to the planet itself, in multiple kinds of ways. Ones where it feels like it's more in front of the scenes physically. So I do discern, and I have discerned certain kind of energies from the sun itself. Now, as a physical human, if I was to touch the sun, I would probably burn up. Not just probably, in a certain manner, physically. Physically speaking, if I was launched towards the sun and touched the sun physically in a certain manner, I would die. I wouldn't even make it. Well, physical science looks at it, physical earth-based science, yeah, that's normal. Okay, well, but behind the scenes spiritually, in regards to dimensional existences that may discuss, that isn't the case potentially. There's potentially an entity from the sun that is able to traverse Earth without damaging Earth in multiple kinds of ways. Again, other dimensional selves, you think of other dimensional selves in regards to what we're experiencing behind the scenes spiritually. And as a psychic medium, I've sort of noted that we are experiencing different kinds of existences behind the scenes at times, different kinds of life, different kinds of lenses, different ways of living, different culture, different society, even different languages, but some in which can and do correspond and understand what the in front of the scenes, what the other dimensional selves are saying. It'd be like, imagine physically being aware of another dimensional self that exists and being able to see and interact with. There is dimensional existences behind the scenes like that exist in multiple manners. So what does that mean about the planet? What does that mean about the sun? What does that mean about space? And what I've come to understand, and even in regards to the conversations with the spirit in conversations, like, yeah, there is a spirit in regards to this physical universe. There is a spirit in regards to what you refer to as space. There is a spirit in regards to Sol, the Earth's star. There is a spirit in regards to Earth itself. There is a spirit potentially in regards to the moon. Luna. All right, Luna. Well, because we just call it the moon. I mean, that's the thing. But Earth's one of those ones that that is a name in regards to our Earth. Luna's planet. All right, there you go, Alex. There you go. That was the case of it. Well, Gaia is another one. We got Terra is another one that we call. There are other names as well. This physical planet Earth. But yeah, other kinds of other dimensional selves, in knowing that exists and understanding that exists and is a truth. What exactly is their quality of life behind the scenes? What exactly is space experiencing? And in this time lapse of the future, it looked like, one of the thoughts that I had, it looked like wondrous, but also scary, somewhat scary. And what exactly is space going to experience in regards to like trillions upon trillions of years from now? Because that's the kind of time frame we're talking about here. It was like a trillion years kind of stuff, where it's like, whoa, like that is a lot. That is a lot of different time for, like, that's, And they said that the stars would eventually die out, that there wouldn't be any more creation of stars, which was one of the thoughts that I had, was that, okay, so one of the technologies that maybe those who inhabit this physical space would want to try and figure out eventually, if not already so, is that sort of thing that says that we can create stars. because that is fairly important. We don't want to be probably coming up with that's well. There's those ones where like, oh, but what about destroying stars? I'm like, I don't know if that's the one we want to come up with if we're going to be relying on stars to a certain degree in a certain context for a certain kind of life. They do rely upon it, and inadvertently, doesn't that potentially help out the black holes too in a certain context, or does that continue to go where all of a sudden black holes were starting to eat each other up and that sort of thing? It's an interesting concept to a certain degree because I don't know if it was the stars dying out that potentially lent towards the cause of that sort of thing. I did key advocations throughout it, 3-4 advocations. I and others from its guides are advocating for the best possible advocations, actions, and non-actions. That means for guides indicated the way means for guides indicated. I don't know if I said that means for guides indicated. I don't know if I did, but either way, should have said calculated by the setting. Cross-reference to what means for guides indicated. True to a certain degree, but I said I and others from guides are advocating for the best possible advocations, actions, and non-actions. The way means for guides indicated. I think that was one of them. So, it's a decent. And there was also this moment where I kind of like looked towards God and I said, I said that the good outweigh the bad. It's a choice that certain higher spirits that have the power to be able to intervene in the physical choose not to. And I even said that it's not decent enough, and it is decent because some of the accords in regards to that is saving. Some of the stuff that's happening is protecting. But it really is a choice, because there are those in the original light that have the power to be able to save everyone in the physical instantaneously. And we've seen minor miracles here and there throughout it, but in more than minor miracles, good sir, more than minor miracles. In fact, we can take a look at the inception of this place to a certain degree and beforehand spiritually to find and see if there really, there might have been miracles spiritual to a certain degree. But that sort of thing that says that they're choosing not to for some sort of reason. And the pain and suffering that's being caused at times in regards to some of it leads some to feel that it isn't a good enough choice to say no, not to save certain kind down here. And you look at the lengths of time, you look at the amount involved, you look at that one of the most important things ever is what someone experiencing suffering. That what we're experiencing, someone experiencing pain, someone experiencing hardships. That is one of the most important things ever. It's the most important ever. And there's higher spirit that look at it and say that is that those that grouping of consciousness, and they have advanced computation. They can look at pretty much certain portions of all that is and section off who exactly is experiencing pain and suffering, and they can look towards it and say, look what they're experiencing. And when that came to be in all that is, whenever it did, it became one of the most important things ever. I think God looked at it and said, yeah, that's the most important thing ever. And that's always what it's going to be. And it hasn't been treated as such at times. In fact, it's been forgotten about to be the most important variable ever for a reason. Because when you think of it in regards to yourselves, in regards to experiencing some of that stuff, you say, okay, everything is off the table. What I'm worth? Well, no, what I'm worth? No, not what you're worth. Because there's a higher spirit that's like, oh no, that's not the case. All right, exactly. Imagine a higher self that's like, what we're worth still matters. Oh, okay, correct. And it does. You can imagine another dimensional self in regards to yourselves getting hurt, and then all of a sudden when someone's saying that, what you're worth, does that still matter? You're like, yeah, it does. All right, correct. But it's still one of the most important things ever because it just is. Could you imagine that if we did emerge from morality and goodness and all that sort of stuff, and there was certain kind of catastrophic events and wars that finally eventually unfolded eons later, and that sort of thing, when it started to happen, when that concept of people who are experiencing pain and suffering and immorality and things of that nature started to expand to get more and more. But imagine it just existing. All of a sudden, it never existed before, and then all of a sudden someone's in pain. And that was just brought, wouldn't it be brought to the center fold? Everyone would be looking at it. It would be a giant auditorium of most of all that is, looking at it saying, that is the most important thing ever. All right, we need to make sure that never happens. And it's the most important thing ever to make sure it not happens. That's the most important variable. Okay, correct. Okay. In preventing being harmed in such ways, experiencing pain and suffering and immorality, that means spirit guides indicate, because there's some that want to experience it. There's some that want to experience it. You get a loose tooth and you feel wiggling your tooth, and it's a pleasure pain. Yeah, imagine there's that kind of stuff. For other kinds of things, yeah, there's a certain kind that wants to be able to experience that sort of stuff. So we look at that and say, okay, so it's a different kind. You put that away, you section that away, you say that that's not necessarily the kind that we're looking to stop in a certain regard for what's acceptable. Okay, because there might be a portion in which we look at and say there are certain spirits in regards to that they're experiencing it that do not want to. So yeah, that's a pretty important decision in figuring out that sort of thing. But then you look at something else that says that certain kind are like, well, we're experiencing something horrible, but it's a alternative to experiencing something worse. So when you look at that and you say, okay, so they can experience it worse, but they're experiencing still something fairly horrible. How are we supposed to proceed? How are we supposed to look towards it? Are we supposed to not accept and understand those punishment alternatives or experience alternatives, whatever you call that? And some people are like, okay. Anyway, the idea remains is what are spirit experiencing in a certain regard, and that's kind of what I looked at. But it's not. It was a small portion. It was a couple thoughts throughout the film. That's it. It's not supposed to go expand. No, it can be done in a way. Like doing Innsbruck guides and regarding this market application, etc. From Innsbruck guides, because that's what we're talking about here. That's what we're saying. You don't know why, because that's what you did. There was a certain kind that did not realize it was going to be that long in regards to this physical universe to a certain extent. Okay, alrighty then. You are correct. Others from Innsbruck guides are advocating for the presence of the original creator. That from Innsbruck guides negated the way in which I was negated. Well, the original creator, well, you are correct. The original creator, there is a definition, original creator. So, I mean, you don't have to say that your main spirit guides indicate that your main proxy is indicated, except that it can still be beneficial and decent in a certain manner. Again, original, there is a definition, present or existing from the beginning, first or earliest. Okay, correct. So, all right, fine. And that was the case of it. That's what you did. We kind of got a little bit angry here. That's all. And that was the case. You don't know why. And Alex says, what people experience. Is that really the most important thing? Yeah. Well, it's one of. That line that points towards people experiencing pain and suffering, that is and will always be one of the most important ever in preventing. Because some are trying to look at it and say that, we need to cause it. No, it's not the most important ever to cause it. No, it is not. That was never, what they were looking at in the beginning in regards to trying to cause it, in regards to what was causing the importance regarding. Okay, correct. All right, fine. It wasn't, though? This was the case of this. Not in a certain context, but maybe in another. I don't know. Anyway, because you don't know why. Because somebody didn't like that would be that's the most important variable. So what's the other most important variable then? Oh, okay. Because you don't know why. And which one wins? Alrighty then. Some of them already know the answer. This is the case of this. All right, fine. You are correct. That was the case. Survival, is that it? Survival's one of them. You don't know why, because you bypass that right away. And not necessarily. I'm just saying. I say it's important. That's how I feel. Well, someone doesn't like you saying it's the most important variable. That's all. Anyway, I feel it's important. Maybe it's not the most important, but I feel like it is.